Welcome to the Mental Dietitian Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Lynch-potter, and today's guest is somebody that I have known of for a little while. We have lots of mutual friends. He is a fitness and life coach. He has an amazing story. He's a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. He's an amazing human being. And welcome to the show, Dave Puhky.
What's up, dude? Great intro.
What is up, dude? Yeah, we were just talking before we started rolling, and I wanted to continue the conversation because it's really interesting, and it's literally my whole message as well. Of you were talking about you used to try to out exercise the demons. You've been a gym owner. I went on your Instagram and I went back as far back as it possibly could, all the way back to 2012, 2013. And you've been doing this a long time. You fought in Thailand. You've had MMA fights. You're a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt after 15 years. You got it in November last year. Like, you've been doing it a long time. And then recently you've transitioned to not just fitness coaching, which you've been doing for a very long time, but life coaching. And you said that you realized you couldn't out exercise the demons. Talk more about that. What do you mean by that?
Man, that is, first off, thank you for the background check. That's amazing. Yeah, it's funny because you forget sometimes how long you've been doing this. I've been 20, long. I would consider myself when I started jiu-jitsu, I was at like a gymnastics club. There was it wasn't how much it's grown today. And like we were saying before we started recording, everything I say now is I guess even when I say this, I used to be so unsure of myself. And it was the outer image that I needed to be sure of myself. I needed that big, strong, because deep down I was insecure. So when I say things like, man, I've had a 8-pack since I was fucking 17 when I had to go to rehab for being an idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always looked for that, the exercise, because it did save my life for sure. So it's like kind of, it's a two-sided story, because in one sense it has been everything in my life, but when I started, it was the same thing for the martial arts. As I got older, I kind of realized, it's very easy in your crowds to get influenced what you're doing. And I'm like, even for fighting, I loved it. Like I wanted to be a fighter so bad. And then I fought and I was like, yeah, I love the win. I really like the winning feeling. I was really good at it. I was a great athlete. But then it was kind of like, I'm like, is this the life I really want? I'd look at the landscape of a fighter, and it was kind of no, deep down, I kind of knew that, but it was like, because I for some reason, my ego, and I see this a lot, in the martial arts world, it was like my ego needed to show other people that this is who I was, I guess, but it wasn't, I don't even know if it was really who I wanted to be. So, it took me a long time to really humble myself and ask myself questions like, why am I doing this? Like, I love jiu-jitsu is my life. Like, I love training. I like competing. But I guess where I'm going with this is, I wasn't really doing things for me, like deep down, even though it was my own life, I was like, it was the easiest way, I guess, to run from everything else in my life, because, if I'm consumed, I'm all in. And, that's what my coaching program is called, the all in effect. Because you have to be, but I was all in on one thing, because I'm like, if I just, this is going to make people like me even, and it's a crazy thing to say that now that I'm older, because I mean, if you don't like me, I don't really give a shit, because I am genuinely who I am. And I'm a good dude, man. I care about my people. But for so long I was, I guess doing it because I guess I wanted to think that this image of me. But then I realized, like, no matter how that image got and how strong I got or how good I would look in the mirror, I was missing this. Like, I was avoiding all the other things that came along with this. And I'm like, am I really a person of value that I value, other than just my physical appearance and my efforts in the gym? Like, who am I when nobody's around? I'm sitting in, can I sit? And I always say this, this is a random saying, but why I'm obsessed with self-development, because for years, I didn't love myself, and it was childhood trauma, abandonment with my dad, jail, just like a lot of things. I'm like, man, for the first time in my life, a year ago, my mom got cancer. It's a long story, but 40% chance to live. And I was just in the worst place in my life. I had friends sell me out, friends in business. Learn, and every lesson I always say, I always have a part in everything, right? So I always just take everything as a lesson and things I could have done better. But yeah, I was just kind of like, where I'm going with this is like, I had to like, I always say like, are you happy? And like, and that's like, that's a very bold statement because you can't be happy all the time. There's hard days, it's more the search of joy in your life. And am I content with myself? And I would exercise, I would just use fitness and I'd feel good, 3 hours after you work out, but then those demons would start coming back because I never faced Dave in the mirror. And, I just told my wife the other day, I'm like, man, the feeling of being able to like, just to sit on a beach by myself or at my house, go for a walk and just be like, man, I fucking love me. Like, that shit took me almost to death to get there. And I'm like, the other side, like I know both sides, and I know what it's like feeling lost. And so I'm like, I'm so passionate about like, fuck man, if you do these things and they're not, I mean, they're hard as fuck, it's no, the self-work is no lie, but it's the payoff of that feeling of like knowing that no matter what, like, I'm good with who I am is, yeah, I guess that's kind of was the biggest thing for me, the biggest learning lesson of like doing the self-work, forcing myself to go through things, making sure I'm really vulnerable. And I was like, man, if someone's going to judge me, fuck them. Because having everybody like me never made me happy anyway.
Yeah. And I think I could speak to so much of what you just said because you just described my life. You described my life in a way, and it's obviously, it's a common theme for a lot of people. And I call it the real pandemic, And I call it, when I'm coaching clients, I call it the great psychological pandemic of humanity. And what that is not enoughness. You're not enough. No matter how much fucking money you make, no matter how shredded you get. I did steroids in my early 20s. I remember walking around music festivals with 70,000 people and just like feeling like a god, but I was small on the inside. And I remember in my 20s, like 3 years ago, I remember I made $35,000 in a month selling cars. And I was like, I was more anxious than ever. And it's really about the journey home to the true self. And you've discovered it. People have else discovered it. It's like, it's not out there. It's in here. And I think what we're all looking for and what you're probably trying to help with your clients, and I try to help with my clients, is like, you want to find peace. Peace is like you simultaneously want to really get better and do all these things and experience life. I talk about, you want to gulp life. You don't want to sip on it. So many people are just sipping on it, taking these little sips rather than just fucking gulping it. But at the same time, why are we gulping life? Why do we need to do more? And I think for me, for a long time, like you said, I used to go to the gym to keep the not enoughness at bay for another day. Like, oh, you're a piece of shit. I'm not a piece of shit if I go to the gym. Cool, I feel good again. And then it would creep back in. And it was just another addiction. It's just, I'm just running, constantly running, trying to do more, be more, just so I can feel like I'm enough when you were enough all along. And it sounds like that's been your arc, and it's everybody's arc, and everybody's on their own journey of that arc. And yeah, it's beautiful what you said, because that's what it's all about, dude. That's literally what it's all about.
I love what you're saying about like, the gym too, like kind of holding on to that, you work out so you keep that just enough, of that self-esteem.
It's an addiction. Like, it's an addiction.
Oh,
it's
100%.
Own addiction
100%.
Of like, oh, I'm not a piece of shit today. Cool. And you feel good and you got a pump and you're like, fuck yeah. Like, yeah.
Then, this girl came up with a girl here this morning. She comes up to me. She's like, have you ever thought about doing like a body? And I was like, she's like, and like, the old me when I was younger, I would search for that. Like, but I'm like, it's funny. And this is just random a thought, but I'm like, I'm so much more than just some fit jack dude. Like literally I got so much. And I say this, like when I say knowledge and like, I'm so passionate about this and I can, it's great. Even just chatting right off the bat, I can tell how much I can relate to you, because it's like, there's so much more than just fitness. And, like we're saying, and that's to further that, like, the I am enough thing. I thought of this thing the other day, and it was like, because, it's a kind of a different take, society's so quick to say, there's like there's the I am enough thing. But then at the same time, I was like thinking about it in times of my life, like, was I being enough though for me? Like, was I really, because I used it as a cop out sometimes, where I'd be going through a hard time and I would just say the words, but then I'm like, am I really being enough? Not the external, but am I enough? Like, am I? Because I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get
To
what
the
you're
point.
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, I wasn't enough. Like, for me, not for, and and I used to think this for relationships too. Like, I'd always be like the empath. Like, I'd love bomb my girlfriend and I'd blame, and but at the end of the day, it was like my relationship sucked because I was fucking like I was just a loser. You
Yeah.
know,
You
and
weren't
it's
winning. You weren't
yeah,
being the best Dave you possibly could be. And it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're simultaneously at all times, you are perfect exactly how you are, but you can always get better. And people have a really hard time with that. It's like, well, if I could get better? It's like, yeah, because there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing, that's the thing. It's like, there's
yes,
nothing wrong with you, but you can still get better. You can learn more knowledge about fitness, more knowledge about sales, more knowledge about marketing, more knowledge about business, more knowledge about how to be a better man and a better husband and all of that. But it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you right now.
yeah, yeah, bang on. That kind of sums up, because it's like, people hear that, like, oh, when I say it, like, well, are you enough? And they think it's kind of like the trigger. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying like there's anything wrong with you. You know what I mean? And
It's hard.
people, yeah. I got buddies still, like, with coaching too. It's funny because your friends, I'm like, dude, you realize, like, when I say like my coaching, I owned two businesses, 7 years. I've, the black belt stuff. Like, and I don't toot my own horn, but I'm like, when I say I have a lot of real life experiences, divorced, like, I've gone through the ringer. And what I tell people is like, man, the recipe for the self growth was a lot, or like, the self love really was a lot easier of a blueprint than everyone really thinks it is. It's just, you got to just go all in. Like, all right, I have my non-negotiables. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. People are like, not even one. Like, well, I could have one beer, but I might have 4 beers and do a bunch of blow and stay up till 6. And you know what I mean? Like my
Yeah.
old ways I used to do. And I'm
Yeah.
open about it because, like, and it wasn't until I did it for me, because I have buddies, their girlfriend will leave them and they're like, I'm quitting. And I'm like, bro, if you don't do this because you just wake up one day and you look in the mirror and be like, I am so capable of being great for me, and it's like, I don't drink booze. I wake up, I exercise every day. It's like the rituals and the habits and the discipline, it's really there for a reason. Because if you look at anybody, for anyone I look up to, it's very similar. And when I tell people, it's like, dude, it's not just to do, like, I say 90 days is a minimum commitment to work with me. But I only say that it's like, because it's like, it's for you, man. Because it's not to go 90 days, like, and if I wish I would have learned this 10 years ago, but I'm happy I learned it now. And it's always like, it's not just to go 90 days and be like, all right, I feel good. I'm just going to go back to all the things that made me miserable inside. It's to show you, holy fuck, I feel this good. I'm never going back to that.
Yeah.
Why would I ever want to go back to that old shitty me? And I did that pattern for so long. I would go a month and, I'd quit drinking and I'd go a month and I'd feel good. But then that month would come up and all those demons that I, with the alcohol and drugs that I pack away, they'd be standing there and I'd be like, oh shit. Like, here they are when I'm sober, because I thought they'd just disappear. And that's the other thing, is like having, when you face them and when you go through those things that, of that self hate, really is what the demons were, of all, like, the mistakes in life and, the not good enough. And you just pretty much knock them out, or one taps you out and you move on to the next one. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, once you get through that barrier, you're like, holy fuck, I should have just faced this shit years ago. Instead of running from it, I'm running into it.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is by Joseph Campbell. And the quote is, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And man, oh fucking man, I've found that the thing that people want in life, like speaking from my own experience, so I always wanted this amazing relationship with a woman. All right. And I've been in a relationship for 8 years now with Lexi. So we've been together for 8 years. It's been the hardest, most revealing, crazy self-growth journey that I've ever been on. And I had a real hard time with commitment. Like I was always I was not necessarily 1 foot out. Like I've never cheated on a girl. I've never done anything like that. I've never liked pictures, never talked to any other women, but it was more of a feeling within me of like, maybe it's better somewhere else. And I felt that at times. And what I realized is that mindset, that belief was actually getting in the way of the deep connection that I wanted. And I realized that it wasn't anywhere else. It was on the other side of like, hey, if you really get vulnerable, if you really commit, and if you really open yourself up, even though it's painful. And this was all coming from my mom and dad's divorce when I was 14, which plant medicines really helped me realize there was a lot of, I didn't trust love. I thought that commitment was a jail cell. I thought that what's the fucking point of loving somebody with all your heart when they can just shatter it at any time? And I saw that with my mom and dad. So being 14, 15, going into liking women, having relationships, being 31 now, I thought I was committed, but in fact, my relationship could be so much greater and more aligned and more connected in this beautiful union between a man and a woman that I really wanted. I dreamed of. I used to notice it in movies. I would notice it in other people. And I was like, I want that. But the very thing that I wanted most was on the other side of the thing that I was avoiding of like, why can't you go all in? Like, why is going all in so hard? So exactly what you said, literally exactly what you said. I wanted to share that story because that's something vulnerable about me that kept me. It's like the cave I feared to enter, hold the treasure I seek. It's right there. It's like the magic you're looking for is in what you're avoiding.
I love that saying. It's so funny because it's like when you've been through this journey, and I say on the other side, because I love my life, and I can honestly say that with 100% conviction. And like when I hear your story there too, it's like similar. My parents were divorced, and that I think people who are listening I have friends, and I can see it. You can see, I'm sure you have friends that are doing patterns that you used to do, and it's like, dude, your relationship sucks because you're not all in. Okay. The grass is never going to be greener anywhere else. Nope. You're going to find a girl. If you do the same thing, same shit, different day, it's going to get you the same results. And, even hearing you, someone, was like, oh, your last marriage didn't turn out. Yeah. Well, I could list all the reasons it didn't turn out because I wasn't all in, all the shit who knows? I'm not saying because I'm so relatable. Like you said, I'm like, sometimes I used to think people would look at me now with Ashley and think I'm bragging. But like, dude, the beginning of my relationship for the first 8 months, I was kind of verbally cheating. I was still being a complete loser. Yep. And God bless my wife. I haven't said anything about us getting the M word yet. So yeah, me and Ashley might have recently eloped. I'm going to keep that. Yeah.
Fuck yeah! Congratulations.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and and God, thank God she stuck by me to see it through because like now it's like, I just what you were saying, like who the fuck? And I don't know what we're allowed to say in 2023 now, but like whether you're, I don't know,
say whatever you want.
If you're gay or I don't know, all I can relate to is who I am. So if you're someone who wants to marriage, I'm sure it's probably the same for gay people. I don't know. I'm not, you know what I mean? And
yep.
But all I mean is like, if you're someone like me, a guy who wants love with a woman, and like, because the best relationship I've ever had in my life is with my wife. And I love her so much, like you were saying. And it's like, obviously, like you said, it's been people, like you said, it's the hardest thing you've ever done, but thinking that there's something better on the other side. Like when you go all in on your relationship, you learn things about yourself that you never even I used to look at couples, like you said, I'm like, man, I wish I had that. And, I would get jealous. And then I would realize that jealousy was the real gift. I'm like, hey, I should ask this person a question. If I'm jealous of them, like they clearly have something I want. So I'd be like, hey, Brad, instead of like, I'm gonna like secretly hating on this fucking person. It's only because I wanted that. And then it's like, wow, when you really look at their dynamic, they're just 100% sold on this is a commitment no matter what. I'm going to grow with you, and that's really how it works, because like you said, I wanted that for so long, and I just think, if you want a relationship, you'd be lying to yourself if you said that wasn't what you wanted.
Every human being, regardless of what gender or sex or whatever, all that politicalness that's going on right now,
I guess that's what I'm saying.
Every human being wants connection they want love. It's like that's our default fucking setting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because here's reality. It's very interesting if you really think about it. What is love? Like, what is that feeling? It's actually a feeling that your brain creates within yourself that has been within you the entire time. Ash is an external gift from the universe, your wife, of the love that is possible within you, if you really think about it. So that's what we're all looking for. And I truly believe that if you struggle with relationships, and I know people, I got friends, they seem to be dating the same fucking chick, but she's got a different name and she's got the same fucking problems. It's fucking crazy.
I know. Well, because to nail that, you can only meet someone at your own level of dysfunction. That's what I tell what you just said about your buddies, that it's like the new girlfriend. Oh, yeah, different name. And it's like, this is literally what I was just going to say. Guys and girls, this goes for both. The crazy thing is, the next relationship, that my friend will get in, somehow it's all them. Oh, she's crazy. It's like, really, bro? The last 5 of them, it's none of it's been you, eh? That's a little ironic that there's just no good ones out there. Really? 8 billion people? Are you sure it may not be the man or the woman in the mirror? Because that would be a wild.
What's the common theme here? Like, what do they all have in common? It's you, motherfucker. It's you.
I know. And I kind of cut one of my old best friend out of my life just because it was like always the same thing. Not saying I'm there. I'm always there to reopen, but like, hey man, every time I talk, it's the same fucking story. And you don't want to change. You just want someone to bitch about your problems to, not solutions.
Yeah, like you're an asshole. I call them assholes. Like, hey man, what do you think? And it's just like you keep asking, and until you really sit with it enough to be like, maybe I'm the source of all my problems, but I also this is a saying I say quite often, is that you simultaneously are putting up the bars of your own prison of your own perspective. But you also have the key in the other hand. You can get out whenever the fuck you want, but you're also trapped at the same time if you choose to be. So, yeah, like the power is within you, but also the reason why, and that's the hero's journey, man. And that's what a lot of people are too scared to embark on it. It's because it's a very jagged pill to swallow to really come to realize, like your friend, these chicks, they're just a mirror of what I haven't worked on within myself.
Mm-hmm. No, you nailed it. It's like everything's my fault, but also everything is also my solution.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's crazy when you're out of it, because especially when you've been in it, it's so easy to see when you're like, hey man, have you noticed the pattern that you have? And a lot of the times these relationships, guy or a girl, whoever is like, on the other side of this like scenario, it's like, dude, and it's like, well, kind of like what we said, the reason you're not happy in these relationships is because you avoid all the work and you don't really love yourself. So these relationships are just fillers, and then usually the first 6 months are kind of like, they'll go well, and then the real person comes out, right? And it's back to the same insecurity, maybe that starts to fights, or nothing changes because nothing's changed.
That's
Because
why
when
I
you're
love
constantly
jujitsu.
blaming, yeah,
I love jujitsu because when you go into the gym, right? Say I go to On Guard where I train, or I go to Revolution. If I keep getting put in an armbar by different people over and over and over again, it's not like at the start of the class, like, you know what we're going to do today, guys? We're going to attack Aaron's arms. That's what we're going to do. You realize real quick, it's like, maybe I'm just fucking keep putting my arm out there. And
yeah,
it's a perfect metaphor for life. It's like, well, where else in my life am I keep doing the same fucking shit that is bothering me so much? Like the buddy with the girlfriends. It's like jujitsu. That's why it's so powerful, is because it's like in half an hour of rolling, you get submitted with the same submission 10 times. You're like, okay, well, it's not them, it's me. And it's impossible to be a victim. It's impossible to be a victim if you've been doing jiu-jitsu for longer than a year. You can't be a victim because it's impossible. Like, that's why it's so powerful.
but you got the well, you have even the victim thing. You know, because it's like when like you're right for doing jiu-jitsu. Because I'm like, okay, when I was a teenager, I guess I kind of was a victim until I was 18. Like, or like till I was like out of my parents' house, because you really have no control. But once you get into the world, and I'd say just a safe bet over 25, like you said, jiu-jitsu is so good for this. It's like you have control. No one's got a gun to your head. I mean, not where I've lived. Doesn't matter how hard you are. I don't know too many people are forcing people to do things. Like, you know what I mean? No one's forcing you to do anything. So everything is on your own accord. Like, same goes for training, It's
Yeah, man. Like, your journey of jiu-jitsu has been what, 16 years now, right?
mm-hmm.
What is the things that, like, the principles that jiu-jitsu has taught you, if you could think about them on the fly?
The marathon, the biggest thing is just, it's like it's the biggest metaphor for me is for life is just never quitting. I've had stages where I've hated jujitsu, literally just because my body would fall apart. But it was like that, and the never ending growth. I think that's because I'm obsessed with personal development. So I'm for kickboxing, and who knows, maybe I get some flack, but it's like the combos. The reason I love, like, really fell in love with jujitsu is like when I would kickbox, like, you'd come away for a couple months and you go back after a week, you're like, you're snapping, you're cracking, your combos are still crisp. You take 5 months off jujitsu at a high level, fuck, man, you come back, it's a reality check.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, and I'm not saying, Muay Thai, the same, there's a lot of growth there too, but jiu-jitsu as one of the martial arts is evolving at such a fast rate now. So it's kind of like, it's like the self-development journey, which I'm obsessed with. There's a never-ending limit. And it's like the same thing for self-development and life. It's like it's just that journey of never, there is no ceiling,
You never
so
arrive.
yeah. Yeah. You never arrive at that destination, and it's the same for joy and happiness in your life. It's not the destination, it's the journey that is so much fun, and obviously there's a lot of hard times, but it's just that always showing up and keep moving forward and pushing through it. And like you said, there's a lot of life things, like there's a lot, it's easy to want to quit when times get hard, and yeah, that'd be the biggest thing I would say is this, just the marathon, not that destination. It's not a sprint. It's the constant evolution is why I love it so much, because it keeps me coming back for more.
Yeah, it's really special. And until you really do it for a period of time, it's hard to understand. A lot of people talk about jiu-jitsu, and some people are fucking sick of hearing people talk about jiu-jitsu, but it's not just a martial art. Because here's the thing with Muay Thai kickboxing, there's only so many strikes. You got your elbows.
That's kind of what I was saying.
Yeah, like exactly what you're saying. It's like there's only so many combos you can do. The thing is about jiu-jitsu is that there's people inventing new combinations often. Like the last 10 years, the whole leg lock game has gotten so advanced that if you don't know that and you're a black belt at a high level and you compete in ADCC and somebody's been studying legs for 5 years, you're fucked. Like they will probably
That's how I lost, or that's how I lost my match at ADCC, the California Open.
really because of legs.
Heel hook. I against the guy who was really good. He's from Texas. I knew he was. I still think I could. Yeah, just kind of. Anyway, it's a long story. The rules they're yelling at you to pass with like 60 seconds left, or you get penalized. And even though like the referee should know, it's like, dude, this guy's a guard puller. He's got a good guard. I'm trying to pass. But I stepped over, didn't tap for like 6 seconds, fucked my knee up for like 2 months after. But I still did 3 more. I won 3 more matches after. But
hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. And there was some good submissions too. Like you got a guy. I don't even know.
Scissor.
Like it was like a scissor. Was that what was that? It was like a scissor choke.
Head scissor. Scissor choke. Yeah, that was probably my favorite highlight.
That was fucking cool. I saw that. I was like, that's a weird submission, but a cool one.
Right? Yeah. It's well, like you said, back when I started jiu-jitsu, like pull and guard and leg locks were for pussies 15 years ago. Like you were like, it was like we see all the memes about guard. Now it's like anything. It's like, you better know it, or you can say whatever you want, but if you're getting submitted by it, fucking is what it is.
Yeah, and it's like I've found that wrestling is like that too now. If you don't know wrestling, like if you've ever done jiu-jitsu and you're a white belt and you go against a guy that used to wrestle, he will dummy pretty much most, like somebody who's a good wrestler will beat people up to probably purple belt.
Oh yeah.
Like
100%.
It's amazing. Like I've trained, there's this guy, Brandon Briglio. He's probably about 5'4". He's an amateur MMA fighter. I remember going against him. I'm 5'10", and I'm probably about 40 pounds heavier than him. His intensity with wrestling blew my mind to the point where I'm like, this guy's been doing jiu-jitsu for probably 3 months, but he's been wrestling for years. And I'm like, this shouldn't happen. But it was a reality check. And once again, going back to how is that a metaphor for life? It's like, well, you need to get better at this. Like you can't sit there and complain that wrestlers are smashing you. It's like, why don't you go learn wrestling? Like if you're not making enough money or if your relationships suck, well, go fucking do something about it. Like do something about it, because otherwise life will just keep showing you and bringing people into your life to show you where you're not free. It's fascinating. It's really cool.
Well, it's like you said, it's you get the good wrestler. One of my main training partners was a guy named Sean Molly. He's a 3-time Olympic trial super heavyweight wrestler.
Jesus.
And guys, he would be like at my gym I had in Victoria. My practices were always hard because that's just the way I was brought up, and it's kind of like, if you're getting dominated by a wrestler, it doesn't matter. However you're losing or getting dominated, it doesn't matter who the fuck this person is, how they train. It comes back on you. How do I stop this? Or how do I counter this? Am I training hard enough? Probably not. Because that's another thing I talk to people about jiu-jitsu. Like, are you really putting in work? Especially if you like want to compete. Like, because, I know a lot of guys that just kind of, I don't even know how to say this. They just fucking half-ass it in the gym. You know what I mean? They duck rounds. They sit on the wall, and trust me, I've been there. But you never get better by sitting on the wall. Like being afraid to lose in the gym. I used to kind of be like that. Now I have a new motto to never say no. I don't give a shit how tired I am. I'll lose some rounds, like in the fucking 6th, 7th round. Guy comes out, just the way it is. But you know what I mean? When you and this is for someone that wants to compete. When you get in those competitions, you're in shape. You've trained hard. It's a lot harder to lose.
Your mindset too. You're like, I'm willing to go deeper than you are.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the wrestling grind, I was kind of brought up with that. Like, I know anyone that knows me, like I am never an easy round. Like, especially if it's like, we're fresh, we're going, I don't give a shit who it is. Like I'm a dog round. It's always kind of been my style. But there is a certain element to that in competition that is so key. Like knowing that, like, this person's going to have to beat me to beat me. Like, you know what I mean? They're going to have to catch me. It ain't going to be me quitting or me falling in the towel mentally. That ain't happening. And you get that from good training partners and good coaches. But at the end of the day, you can have the best people around you, but it's this, and it's in here, and knowing that you're really committed and really want it. And that's another metaphor for life. Like, people say you want something. Do you actually really want it? Or are you just saying that? I ask myself as I get older now, when I compete, like I think I'm going to do I'm going to do the West Coast trials. I'm pretty sure, but I don't go do something unless I'm like, I'm training twice a day. I don't give a shit. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm an extremist. I've always been that way. Probably why with my battle with drugs and alcohol, everything I've ever done has been all or nothing. But I'm like,
same.
Anybody I've ever met in life that has anything worthwhile has that mindset. Because if you're just going into anything and it's like, that's kind of like on the self-development journey. It's like, I'm all in. I don't have a plan B. I'm not going back to fucking the old me. And time is like, because when I wasn't all in, it never really worked.
Yeah. And a lot of people sometimes misunderstand what you're saying. And let's talk about the top level marathon runners in the world, right? They are sprinting. Like, it's fucking crazy how fast they are running. Like, they are running.
I'm the worst runner in the world. So I'm always like, I don't know how the fuck they do it.
Dude, they're sprinting. Like, you're like, oh, what's the fastest marathon runner in the world? And you do like how many kilometers or miles per hour wherever you're listening to this. It is like, I'm going to look it up right now. Let's look it up right now. What is the fastest marathon runner pace? It's crazy, dude. It is 21 kilometers an hour. That's how fast he runs for 2 hours straight. Or 13 miles an hour. He's running 13 miles an hour for 2 hours straight, consistently. And going back to that analogy, if you're going to do something, go all in, do it, train twice a day, work really hard, but also simultaneously understand that it's going to take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I say this to everybody, because it's funny, as I've grown in the journey. I was like purple belt, and I was tapping the browns and the blacks and looking at my professor being like, yo, man, like, so I did 8 years in Nogi, but I would not recommend doing that for me. Like, it's kind of a meathead way to think about it. But then I'd start leveling up, right? I'd get my brown, and people would be like, oh, Dave's strong. That would always be a thing. And I'm like, well, you're flexible. Should I not be fucking strong? I don't know. And then because it's like that common thing, it's like kind of like discrediting your, you know what I mean? Because it's like, if you look at like the people that are higher up, this is the other thing. Then I hear people like, I would look at someone, and if you got a soft ass body and you're competing at a high level, I already know you're not training that hard. And like, that's very odd to see, some people may think that's odd, but like, you look at anybody at a high level now doing Nogi, let's just use Gordon Ryan, Nicky Rod. These guys are they're doing everything. Like, they're in the weight room. Like, you need to be obsessed with becoming the best version of yourself for whatever you're doing. And I guess where I'm going with that is like, you can tell a lot by people just by looking at them. You know what I mean? Like, this guy doesn't train that hard, or, and I guess what I'm saying with this is in life, I kind of made a video this morning, and I'm like, you walk around nowadays and like, the goal isn't to be, it's sure in competition in jiu-jitsu, you want to be the best, or you want to win. But it's like, the life version of that is, you should want to be the best too. And what I say by that is, the best for your life. You got one life. Your life should be the greatest fucking life ever lived. To you, it's your life.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean you're better than anybody else. You know what I mean? It's just, for you, you're the best you've ever been. And you look around today in modern society, and since I moved to America, man, it's crazy at looking around at the middle-aged guy, like, you're 31, and it's just like, shit, man, like, did you just call her quits or something? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you look like you gave up on your life.
I know. I even think about it. If somebody is overweight, they don't love themselves.
100%.
And they don't think they're enough, because if they did really, and I like people like that I'm enough thing, Yes, that's like when alcoholics stop drinking and they think they're successful because they're not drinking anymore, but they still smoke a pack a day, or they still do other things. It's like, no, you've made it back to zero. Realizing you're enough is like, okay, you're at zero. But when you really understand you're unbelievably fucking powerful, it's like that Coach Carter. It's like it's not that we are inadequate that scares us the most. It's that we're powerful beyond measure. And I see a lot of people in society, and you're talking about it. I see people that are overweight, and I'm like, and they might say outwardly that they love themselves, but like there's a part of you that doesn't, and I can see it. And that might sound harsh, and I'm not trying to be rude, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but there's a part of you that doesn't truly deep down love yourself. Because if you did, you would exercise consistently, not because you don't think you're enough, but because it's a celebration. Exercise should be a celebration of like, hey, I'm a fucking alive. I got this body that I get to live in. Like, let's look after it. Like, I got one place to live, and it's my body.
About like, it sounds harsh, and I love this because, man, sometimes the truth fucking hurts. Like, you know what I mean? Like saying it's like you don't love yourself. You can't look at me, and me by looking at you, tell me you love the person. Because your whole being, right? And like, when I say the truth hurts, I had people tell me I was a fucking loser drunk. And you know what? The sad reality is they were right.
Yeah.
They were right. And then when we like you said, when that I am enough thing, when you stop drinking and the cigarettes, same goes for, when I was jacked, but I was outside of my body. The other side is I was a dick to my girlfriend. I was a fucking drunk weekend bender. So I still was you know what I mean? I had the one aspect, I missed the other aspect. I thought that was everything, it's like complex, but it's not that complex. You know what I mean?
It's literally what I talk about with like, my goal is to help men be holistically successful. And if you're successful in one area, I call there's 5 major arenas of life. There's physically, like your health. There's your mental, your mindset. There's spiritual. Are you spiritually connected to something greater than you? And it doesn't matter what religion you are. There's 3, right? And then there's relationships, right? And then there's finances. So many men out there that are seen as successful in the world might just be really shredded. It's exactly what you're talking about. That was me. I was fucking shredded, but I was broke and I hated myself, and I was doing cocaine as pre-workout. I've done that in my early 20s. It's like, well,
say that last thing 10 times, like, because I know that shredded, like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That thing you just said there was the somehow the chase. I thought that was happiness. I thought somehow that would bring me happiness.
And it doesn't, because it's like, well, how can I be holistically successful? And here's what I see in society. Men think that other men that are financially successful, like that's the answer. I know so many fat, unhappy, like it's kind of what, like if like Wes Watson, I don't think that guy's holistically successful, but he's getting there. He'll get there one day, but he has this saying like rich and rare. Yeah. I'm like, it's true. But then I look at that guy's relationships and who he decides to date and the kind of chicks he decides to date. I was like, well, you're not there yet. And he thinks he is, but he's not. And I'm not where he is financially.
That's crazy, because I watch him do. And my thing is kind of mind, money, muscle, and more and more. I mean relationships, but mind, your mental, the money, and your muscle. It's just like the 3 M's.
Yeah.
Because I just really related to what you said about being ripped, but being broke. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Anyone who says money can't buy happiness. Okay. This is people say money can't buy happiness, has never had money, and they've never been broke as shit, because money can't buy happiness. But if you're internally happy, holy shit, can it make it a lot better?
Oh, like, yeah.
You know what I mean? It can, not for material things, but for freedom, like having a choice to like start a new business, or because that's just such a cop out for people. it's always the people, you know what I mean? You know, the exact kind of person that says that because, you know, when I was ripped and I was broke, I wasn't everything I wanted to be because I wanted to be, I didn't have to be wealthy for appearance, but just for like, so I could give my family, my wife, you know?
Yeah, you want to be the best, man. And like, it's like, oh, money doesn't make you happy. It's like, how do you know?
Yeah, I know.
Have you been a multi-millionaire and be like, you know what? I might just go work at Costco again because this ain't it. It's like, no, like shut the fuck up. Like stop bashing success. There's nothing wrong with being really wealthy. There's nothing wrong with being really shredded. There's nothing wrong with being this spiritual person that wants to drink ayahuasca every 3 months and wears beads around your neck and you're wearing baggy pants and you got one of those hats. But if that's all you are and you're overweight, say you're the spiritual person, you're overweight, like, or you're broke, like then realistically, you're not really successful, in my opinion.
Well, dude, it's like you show me someone that's, and this is what I tell everybody, this isn't the mind, money, you show me someone that's physically fit, loves what they see in the mirror, they're following their passion, they're earning a good income, and they got a fucking relationship that they love. That's a winning motherfucker right there.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. That person is going to have a lot of value because you can just see that they value themselves. You know, they've done the work.
Successful. And that's like, I want to get there. Like,
well, you know the best thing about, I was just thinking, is the only way that I've learned, and this is what I tell everybody. Everyone's like, well, what's one of your biggest keys, Dave? Well, if you got people in your life and you look around you and I'm like, this motherfucker's miserable, bitches all the time, no solutions. This guy doesn't have a girlfriend, complains all the time, it's part of beacon. This person doesn't have this. I'm like, because I want to own a house. I want a great relationship. Well, how are these motherfuckers going to teach me or show me the way? Like, I might as well go back 10 years because my circle, if I hang around these people long enough, I'm going to go downhill because when I tell this miserable motherfucker my idea, do I think this person is going to enhance my idea? If I do, I'm crazy. Do I think that old Joe over here who bitches about his old lady and goes out doing is this guy going to give me relationship advice? I don't think so. Oh, and then is Mike over here who can't pay his rent every weekend because his habits are so out of whack is going to give me financial advice. So what I'm saying is like, you have to surround yourself. And I learned this the long way is like loyalty has an expiration date. You know, I was hanging, I wanted to bring everybody with me because it's the coach in me. Until I was like, man, I'm going to my ship is about to sink. So I got to start kicking this dead weight out of here because I got some brand new aeronautic wake boat and I got 40 fucking people in here. It doesn't matter how nice this thing is. The shit is sinking.
That's hilarious. I remember my friend Jeff Darlin, he said to me once, he looked at me and I was thinking about like how all these people, how kind of sad it is seeing these people and how there's people I care about and like they're suffering. And I remember he looked me in the eyes like, it's not a Disney movie, man. Not everybody makes it. I was like, fuck.
It's like, well, I see you're like me. I can tell, like, because I have like, you know, I really want to bring. And when I say these things, like we're talking about this, hey, if you're a buddy that I just kind of like, look, man, I'm not willing to die so you can swim. Okay, I love you, but I will pick you up out of that water anytime you fucking call me and are actually willing to make the changes. But until then, this is my see you later. I'm going that way. You know, and that's because if I need to be the best me, so I can be the best me for everybody around me. Because when when you're weighed down, you just drowned. And then you don't get to help anybody. And most importantly, you don't get to help yourself.
Yeah, man. Like,
it took me years.
It's so true. And I'll share something that is like very deeply personal to me. And it was from one of my plant medicine journeys. And he's a spiritual mentor of mine. And he said, and it fucking hit me. And he said this before we went on our journey at a men's weekend that I went to. He was like, if you try to save other people and help other people too much, you're actually disrespecting their soul. And I remember when he said, he's like, you're disrespecting their soul. It kind of like, it punched me in the face. And I got this, I was blasted out of my mind, man. I was in the middle of it. And I asked the question, I said, do I have a soul? And the entity, the whatever you want to call it, was like, do you want to see? I said, yes. And it asked me 3 or 4 times. It's like, are you sure you want to see? Because if I show you, you can't go back. It was kind of like the Matrix moment. I was like, yes, I want to see. And it showed me this giant ocean of souls. And it kind of looked like little pods, like almost like the Matrix, but it was all on one layer. And it showed me at the edge of these pods, there were these little knots, like these little kind of knots that were keeping that pod stuck. So it couldn't move. It was stuck. And it said, that's your trauma. Your trauma is the knots in your soul. Your job while you're here is to work these knots out so you can transcend and you can evolve. So you can one day go back to the ocean. And then it's like, next to me was my partner, Lexi. And I could see that she had things that she was working on and she was suffering. And then there was, I felt this feeling through my body of like pain. And it's like, that's a little girl in Bangladesh that's about to die of starvation. I'm like, oh, I want to go do something about it. And it's just like, well, no, that's her soul's journey. Her soul's journey is to die. And that's that person's soul. You can be loving and compassionate and help Lexi, for example, your spouse. But if you try to do too much for these people, you are disrespecting their soul. Their soul is here to go on a journey. And if you're trying to do everything and save everybody, then you're actually disrespecting them and you're disrespecting yourself. And I'll finish with a story. A man is watching this caterpillar and it's in the cocoon and it's struggling. It's trying to get out. It's trying to get out of this cocoon and he's watching it to become a butterfly. And he's like, fuck, I'll help it. I'll help it. I'll break the cocoon open for it. And you see it struggling and it's really stuck and it can't get out. And he breaks the cocoon open and the butterfly dies. And the reason why it dies is because, and this is true, you can look it up. Butterflies develop the strength in their wings so that they can fly by breaking free of the cocoon.
Wow.
So that deep experience I had really helped me see that by me trying to help other people too much and not letting them suffer, that I'm kind of just doubling the suffering in the world and I'm carrying other people's shit when it's not my job.
Well, and you can't save it. You can't save people. I mean, it sounds very morbid.
But they don't, that's the thing. But you get to the point where it's like, nobody really needs saving because there's actually nothing wrong with you. But you have to go through that journey to realize that, hey, I never actually needed saving. And all these fucking horrible things that happened to me built me into the man that I am today. Cool. Fuck yeah.
That's my favorite saying is, well, I used to think this. I was always like, why is this happening to me? And all the time it was just happening for me.
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing I've learned when someone tells me they're going through a hard time. Because when you're going through it, it feels like, why?
Yeah, it's like,
well, even though a lot of mine were self-induced, and a lot of ours are, but I love that butterfly analogy.
It's true. Like if you break a butterfly free of its cocoon before, it doesn't develop the strength to its wings to open. Here's another saying that I know you're going to love, that what is suffering? Like people are like, what is suffering? I'm suffering. Suffering is pain divorced from meaning. That's what suffering is. You will suffer until you find meaning to the suffering, just like Dave has. He is a perfect example of he's suffered. He's abused alcohol in the past. He's had issues with his dad, like all this. He's had probably deep childhood trauma that a lot of you can't even comprehend, that maybe we'll talk about on another episode at another time. But he's transmuted all of that into meaning. And that's why he can talk the way he does right now. There's a beautiful saying that suffering is pain divorced from meaning. Yeah.
I love people talk about cliche sayings too. And I'm like, man, any saying that's a cliche saying, guess why it's a cliche saying? It's fucking true. That's why. You know, you know what I mean? Untrue sayings and statements don't become cliche, man, because they ain't fucking true.
No, exactly. Like, oh man, the reason you've heard of it is because it's
Yeah.
fucking true. And the reason it bothers you is because there's probably somewhere within you that's avoiding, like I
Isn't that
always say,
crazy? Isn't that weird that it's a cliche saying that it just might be true? That's how it became. It's ironic how that happens.
yeah, man.
It's always someone's like, that's so cliche. And I'm like, you're exactly the motherfucker that needs to hear this, man. Like,
Yeah, there's people that are like, they're like a wet blanket. You know what I mean? Like I could just like, it's like they're just a fucking wet blanket. You tell them a saying that might help them, like, oh well, I've heard that before. It's like, well, it doesn't fucking look like it.
I was just gonna say, clearly it hasn't sunk in yet. All right, maybe you should listen to it again and again.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I wanted to ask you, like, what are you working on right now? What are you excited about? Obviously, you're kind of launching a new business by the look of it. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I have launched. I got a whole shit ton of stuff coming on. Right, I'm not gonna. Yeah, and you know what? This is. I want to tell anybody if you're going after your journey and your passion, you're going to be scared. You're going to be nervous. You're going to want to quit every other fucking day. I did that for 8 years in my last business. Built it to where I never thought I could build a gym and sell a gym. If people know the fitness industry, they'll know how impressive that is.
That's fucking
Because
cool, man. That's very
I
cool.
even have to remind myself some days, like. But what I'm saying is, any sort of journey and dream you're on, I even had last night, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just go move back to Alberta or Victoria or Vancouver. And I'm saying this is my journey. So so whatever your dream is, keep pushing forward because if you outlast the days you want to quit, you will make it. And there's going to be roadblocks, obstacles. Your biggest enemy is going to be the one staring at you in the mirror. You just got to learn to battle that and navigate. And those times of wanting to quit become shorter and shorter. They'll always be there, no matter how bulletproof you are. That little bitch voice is wants you to fold it in, But yeah, I just launched my coaching business called All In Performance, life coaching, fitness coaching. I've pretty much got a PhD in life and fitness these days. I've been a trainer for 20 years. I'm a black belt. But like I said, kind of, it goes so much beyond fitness. I just want to change people's lives, man, and show them that they can literally become anybody or that, not anybody, that person that they really believe when you close. I always say this, when you close your eyes, and if you could open your eyes and you had that life that you really want to live, what does that look like? You can do it. And I never thought I'd be moving to California in a month. That was my dream as a 16-year-old kid. And I came from nothing, deadbeat dad. And still sometimes, I have imposter syndrome, but I'm launching my coaching business. I have a supplement line coming out that I haven't said anything about called All In Performance. We're going to have creatine, grass-fed whey protein, all the shit I use. None of the extra bullshit. Grass protein, greens, just the basic staples that I use, which I'm super excited about. That's coming in the next 2 months. I got my podcast, The All In Effect. And if you want to level up, one more thing that I'm the most excited about, I'm starting a men's group. So if you followed my All In Effect Instagram page at All In Effect, that's going to be a men's group for fucking dudes that want to bet on themselves and know they're meant for the life they really want to live, and surround themselves with other like-minded people. Because as I get older, that's what I realized I was lacking. I'm like, so many people I talk to, they're like, oh, I don't have buddies that are doing this. Well, guess what? We're building a community, like people like you and me, and that support each other's dreams, lift each other up, make sure we hold each other accountable on who we say we really are, because that's the most important thing. And I got so much stuff coming down the line, man. I'm so excited. And like I always say, everything you want is on the other side of fear. Anytime I've ever been like, oh, nervous, this is the one thing I say: when you close your eyes and you look at who I envisioned myself living in Arizona, like somewhere warm with my wife and my kids running around in my house and showing other people, dudes, that it's fucking possible, man. It is possible. And if that's that vision you have when you close your eyes, that's your dream life. And why the fuck would we not want to live our dream life when we only have one life? And that's it. That's what I tell my wife every time she, because we all have self-doubt, and knowing that that's self-doubt doesn't go anywhere. It's always hard. My journey's never been, as you know, like, doesn't get any easier. We just get more equipped, and we have buddies like you and me to help along the way. I call a friend that's a real friend, that wants to support the positivity and movement in my life like I do them. And I always say this, like, even if you don't know me and you're just listening to this, I mean, anyone will attest to this. I just had a guy I hardly even know hit me up today. 1 month sober. I will help anybody that's willing to work. That's it. And if you're just wherever you are in your journey and you're making those progress leaps and steps towards the better you, I'm fucking proud of you. And you should be proud of yourself too.
Beautiful. Yeah. Like if go listen to that again, if you listen to this, go back and listen to that again, because fear is a compass. It's not. Fear isn't real. Danger is very real. Danger is like you're in a fucking country and like you can feel there's danger. And you're like, oh, this is sketchy. Fear in North America is mostly it's a facade. It's not real. It's a mirage. And if you can push through it like Dave has, like to build a gym and to sell it. I was a personal trainer for 5 years. I know people that have tried to build gyms. I know people that currently own gyms. I got a buddy in Victoria that owns Tropos Fitness Club, and it's hard, man. And he shared with me it's hard, but it shaped him, and he's the man that I respect today because of that journey. Just like Dave, building a gym, going through what he went through, selling the gym, then transitioned to life coaching and being sober. All these things have galvanized and alchemized you into the person you are today so that you can help other people that are at the start of their journey. That's what it's all about. And I have a feeling that just from this conversation, it's the first time I've actually had a conversation. I have a feeling that one day we will collaborate on something. As soon as you said that, I was like, I want to do all that too. I want to do all that too. Yeah.
Well, I love what you just said there, and it just struck a chord inside me, being like, with the gym, and it's not about me, it's about we. And that's the biggest thing I learned in the, with fitness. I was always a gift of bringing people together, and because I believe, if you believe in what you're doing, and what you're doing is helping others, man, you really can you can do anything, honestly. And like you said about collaborating, like-minded people coming together is one of the most powerful things in the world. And that's really all you need. A circle of dudes, doesn't have to be guys, come together, the same vision, same mindset, especially, and it has to be for a greater purpose to help, because it can't just be all about you, or you will never succeed. And when I tell everybody this, I'm talking to the 25-year-old Dave that should have learned sooner, but he learned anyway. And that's the biggest thing is, I'm happy I had me on, and I'm super happy we got to meet each other. And it's funny when you can instantly tell. I learned this a lot, like a couple of years ago too, is all in those in-between stages of going after your dreams, you lose a lot of friends, and connections that you thought were meant to serve you. But then you get a little lonely, but then you start meeting those people like, shit, man, all my buddies, we go to football games. I don't like, everything is aligned with me, because you can instantly feel the real connection even that we've made. You know what I mean? It's a real bond built off genuinity and real conversations.
Exactly. It's just like, it feels like I've known you for years, and this is the first time we've chatted, because there's something that is deeper than words that you can just feel it. It's like I connect with people that have been through things. My mom had cancer. Your mom had cancer. My parents got divorced. I used to deal with addiction. Like it's all there, and it shapes you. And that's why I have a saying is microdose suffering every day. And what does that mean? That might mean, and in those big 5 areas of life, fitness, microdose suffering, go fucking work out. Relationships, if you're scared of opening up to your spouse, or there's something you need to have a conversation, there's something that fucking pisses you off about them that you haven't told them, do your best in a loving, caring way to tell them. Like and then, or spirituality, it's like, if you suck at meditating and it's so uncomfortable for you, that's maybe a form of suffering. Go do that today. Financially, if you're struggling financially, print out your bank statements and look at all the shit you spend your money on and be like, that's why I'm a fucking loser. Like, do these things and microdose suffering every day so that you can get to the place like Dave has, where he's like, I'm doing this. I'm living my dream. I'm moving to California in a month. I just got married. I'm building a supplement line. I'm doing the life coaching thing. 25-year-old Dave probably didn't even comprehend or really want it. He probably wanted that so bad, but there was probably so much stuff stopping him.
And it was always, what is everybody else? What are my friends that don't, what does people think? Fuck what other people think. Because if anybody, seriously, that's one of everybody I talk to, I say, name me 3 things you're struggling with right now. Fear of judgment is one of always, I would say 90% of one of those 3 things. So you're going to tell me you're not going to live your life because of afraid of what Joe Blow fucking thinks. And if there's your friend, not a great friend. And when you wake up, like, when you're saying your mom had cancer, my mom told me things she wished she would have done more. I'm like, I'm not going to be 7 years old and be like, I didn't try because of what someone thought. Holy shit, what a sad fucking way to go. And everything staring over me, my hopes, my dreams, looking at me, be like, you had one shot, Dave, and you blew it. We're sitting here like, what? That's all I'm going to have to be sitting there with. And I want to live my life. And I say this with little regrets as possible, because of course you're going to have them.
Yep.
But if you're sitting there waiting to make that jump and you're worried about other people's opinions, fuck other people's opinions. And if those people have opinions, they ain't supporting you anyway. So go do whatever it is you want to do, because there's 8 billion people in the world. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Boom. Boom. It's a great way to end the podcast. If somebody wants to find you, if somebody wants to connect to your men's weekend, if somebody wants to find you, what's the best way to find you and to connect with you?
Easiest way is Instagram at Dave Puhky, and links in my bio on my website. Hit me up about anything, man. It's life. You just need to fucking vent, whatever. I'm here. This is what I do. So
hell yeah, dude. And that is DavePuhky. For you guys who are wondering, it'll be in the show notes. I'll post it there. Go follow this man. He's doing big things. He's been doing it a long time. It's not a flash in the pan kind of thing. He's not an overnight success. It's taken him a very long time to get here. And that's why he knows what he's talking about. And that's why you should follow him. And that's why I'm going to call him a friend, even though this is the first time we've met, because I can tell.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to Vancouver soon. We're going to go for some food and get some training in.
Hell yeah, dude. Hopefully my knee's good and hopefully it's better by then.
My back.
Yeah. Go listen to his podcast. Go follow him. It's the All In Effect. That's what it is, right? The podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go listen to that. Go follow him. And we will talk to you all next week. Love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.